For the second day in a row, the United States has launched airstrikes inside Iran. In just the last few minutes, CENTCOM announced this on X, quote, U.S. Central Command forces began launching additional self-defense strikes today at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time against multiple targets in Iran at the commander-in-chief's direction. The strikes are in response to Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. That news comes just hours after Donald Trump vowed to, quote, hit them hard again today because Iran was taking, quote, too long to negotiate. Joining us by phone, senior national security reporter David Rohde. David, what do you understand about the strikes and their targets and how long they're expected to last?
That's the key question. I'll be honest. I'm reaching out to sources, but we don't know. And what we don't know, just given the past actions by President Trump, this could be fairly limited. Or he could make a major change in the approach he's used. He, talked about, threatened in, at one point yesterday, attacking power plants, which is possibly a war crime, and bridges and other things. So it's critical, the breadth of this. They're calling them self-defense strikes. That doesn't really mean much. But the president has got himself in a position where I think the Iranians don't expect him to do much because he's gone back and forth so often. So it would really take a very large-scale attack, I think, to get the Iranians to change their tough positions that they've been taking in the negotiations.
Donald Trump was condemned around the world for threatening to, quote, destroy their civilization, threatening to destroy power infrastructure. It's also potentially a war crime. But to your larger point, I think he's gone from his cabinet saying we are not at war and the war is over to Donald Trump saying we must remain at war because they can't have a nuclear weapon. What is the answer if you ask the White House, are we at war?
I think their answers were not at war. They still claim it's a ceasefire, and I think there's no question that ceasefire has been unraveling, particularly in the last week. Iran has been, very aggressive in terms of striking Israel on Sunday for the first time since the 2-month ceasefire began. They and then Trump, urged Israel to not respond, which was surprising. They then took down an Iranian an Apache helicopter the next on Tuesday. Iran told the Wall Street Journal that wasn't a big deal. He did subsequently, after a briefing with his aides, launch a series of strikes. And so it's very hard to know which direction the president's going to go in. This is maybe the madman sort of theory of negotiations. And, I don't think it's working. I just think the Iranians are, not seeing his erratic behavior as not a clear threat. So we'll have to see again how this plays out tonight.
Stay with us. I want to add to our coverage our military analyst, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He served as the commanding general of the United States Army in Europe. General Hertling, what do you see happening and what do we not see as civilians?
Well, the first thing I'd say is there's some confusion. We have a president who basically said last night, Iran shot down an American helicopter. America must respond. But at the same time, he's saying Iran must come to the bargaining table. So this is more of the military threat to Iran. And if you're truly on the verge of a peace agreement, Nicole, you generally avoid actions that make diplomacy impossible. That's what's happening right now. And as David just said, the Iranians are experiencing an existential threat to their country. We are not experiencing that same existential threat. We just have a president that wants to make a deal so he can open up the economic waterway of the Strait of Hormuz. So, what we've seen over the last 24 to 48 hours, the president was confronted with the incident. The first option he has is a limited retaliation against pre-planned targets. And I got to tell you, from a military perspective, they have a boatload of targets in their target packages. The Iranian radar sites, air defense systems, missile launchers, Revolutionary Guard facilities, maritime surveillance nodes. You could go down the list and you know that this is in the targeting book of Central Command. But those are all already military targets in a strike cycle. The other thing that we have to consider is the president going to allow Israel greater freedom of action in Lebanon? That's the thing I'm most concerned about, because this might actually be part of a more consequential decision. So 3 days ago, the president pulled back Prime Minister Netanyahu and said, don't strike Lebanon anymore because we're trying to get a peace deal. All day today, Israel has been striking inside of Tyre, which is a southern city in Lebanon, a Christian neighborhood where a lot of Hezbollah people have been going, Hezbollah fighters have been going to take refuge. So we're seeing the potential for both U.S. Israeli action. Iran has continued to act by shooting at a bunch of different locations in the Middle East. And what we're really seeing now is a fork in the road. One is continued military strikes, which may expand, and another one is hopefully trying to get a peace negotiation, which the president has not been able to do yet by using military force. So it is really not a good situation. I'm going to add one more thing to that. Right before I got a call from the producer to come on, I had just seen a statement from Secretary Hegseth this afternoon while he was down in Guantanamo saying we're going to hit Iran hard tonight. So the operational security is not real good. It's obvious to everyone what they're doing. And so far, Iran has not caved to the military threats because they've got systems that aren't going to cave through it.
General, stay with us. I want to bring into our coverage our reporter, Julia Jester, who joins us now from Washington. You've been covering Pete Hegseth today. The general just talked about, quote, hitting Iran hard. Is that in retaliation for the helicopter, or is that in service of a goal of a peace deal? What is the objective in terms of your understanding or reporting on these strikes?
Well, Nicole, based on what Secretary Hegseth said just moments ago outside of the headquarters of CENTCOM in Florida, he really stressed the latter, that this was about bringing Iran to the table for a diplomatic deal. He said, we don't want to restart full-scale war, but the strikes are designed to get Iran to capitulate and to get a deal under the terms that the president expects from a deal. Now, the irony here is that part of the reason why Iran distrusts the U.S. so much is that under multiple rounds of diplomatic negotiations going back to June before Operation Midnight Hammer and just recently before Operation Epic Fury started, the U.S. was negotiating with them and then attacked them in the middle of those diplomatic talks. So this could prove to be counterproductive. But Secretary Hegseth stressed that these strikes would be strong, they would be clear, and they are designed to put pressure on Iran to finally stop dragging its feet when it comes to a diplomatic deal. Now, he wouldn't reveal a lot of the specifics of the type of strikes, citing operational security, but when a reporter asked if this would be more of a messaging thing of restriking previous targets, Hegseth said no one said anything about restriking. He noted that there would be new additional targets. And when a reporter asked if striking oil, energy, water infrastructure would be a war crime, Hegseth deflected and called the reporter disingenuous and said, we will hit them hard on our terms and targets that improve the environment for us to operate in, Nicole.